Home, like No Place Is There, is an album about suicide. There's no question this album is a love note to a close friend who took their own life. It is absolutely brutal and beautiful at the same time, with some of the best narrative devices on any emo record ever made. The main reading of Home boils down to working through the horrible, viscerally painful, complex feelings of losing someone you love to mental illness. You should absolutely read it like that. But there's also a post narrative. The album says what it says, but the creation of the album says something else. Sonically, this is a record that opens almost bare. One voice, one guitar, before the whole band crashes in behind it a few minutes later, and it barely lets up from there. Breakneck tempos, call and response vocals that sound like a whole room finishing your sentences before you can, drumming that carries as much emotional weight as anything being sung. Its true center of gravity is a song about being unable to bring yourself to a friend's funeral. Tight, nervous guitar work underneath one of the most devastating lyrics this genre has ever produced. I called in sick to your funeral. The record slows down exactly once, mid album, before turning almost metal in its final minute, and by the time you get to Housebroken, the band's best song, the noise gives way to space and poetry, built around one of the sneakiest and most devastating choruses emo has ever produced. Every song on this record already knows the tragedy has happened. Nobody's trying to undo it, or explain it away, or find some tidy meaning in it. The record starts after the worst part, and it spends 40 minutes doing something a lot harder than mourning. It's trying to figure out what a person is supposed to do with themselves once the worst part is already true. That's a question a lot of young men never get handed a real answer to. You grow up and something breaks you, or someone breaks you, or you just quietly break yourself over a long stretch of stalled out years, and nobody hands you a next step. Here's the answer this record gives you, and it's not a comfortable one. Nobody is coming to save you. There's no outside force that's going to fix the thing that's broken or undo the tragedy or hand you a version of yourself that you can be proud of. You are the one that has to do it, whatever it is. That's not a cruel thing to say, it's actually the most respectful thing that this album does. It doesn't pretend rescue is coming, it just starts trying. When this album came out over a decade ago, I was one of those stuck young men who needed to hear it, and I experienced the clarity of this record's answer at a live show, standing in a room full of strangers, learning that I was not the only one who needed to hear it, in real time. I went to see the Hotelier a few years after this album came out, when they were touring behind its follow up, Goodness. It was a small, dingy basement bar, packed with mostly young men who all visibly had more loud feelings than they knew what to do with. And there was a moment during Housebroken where the whole room just broke wide open. Guys who'd been actively avoiding eye contact with each other 30 minutes earlier were suddenly grabbing each other by the shoulders, jumping up and down, and laughing, practically holding each other up. Over 100 people screaming the song's final line back at the band right before the drums crash in and the whole thing just takes off. It was strange and it was intense and it felt, for a few minutes, almost religious. I was one of those strangers. I jumped up and down with everyone else, high fived guys I'd never met, yelled along with every word shamelessly. I didn't have the first idea what to do with everything that I was feeling. I was just one more angry dude in that room trying to figure out where to put it all. It's not an accident that it was Housebroken that broke everyone open that night. The song is largely read as a song about domestic abuse. It paints the subject of the song as a dog that won't turn against its abusive owner. Interestingly, the lead singer and songwriter Christian Holden has refuted the idea that the song is actually about abusive relationships. There can be a lot of reasons for that, but one of them is that the song is actually about a bigger idea. It's about being stuck in a position and thinking you can't get yourself out of it. It's about not being able to see the full image of your situation when so often those on the outside can see so clearly. Every guy in that room recognized that feeling immediately, whether or not any of us could have said it out loud. We were all stuck in our own version of it. And for one song, in one room, we all got to see each other feel it at the same time. And it was the closest thing to relief any of us had felt in a while. There's something about this record that you can't really get from just reading about it. It always wants to keep the energy up through every single dark moment, and it's musically pretty complex underneath that energy. The song structures aren't all the same. There's experimentation with pace, voice, layering. It's ambitious. It's dark and challenging, like life, like change. But it's also trying to just meet the moment. It's just trying. And it does that while rocking out loud enough to be cathartic to sing along to yell with, to jump up and down with a room full of strangers to. It's not holier than thou. It's not high art. It's actually pretty punk, building something with imperfect tools at an imperfect time. But it gets there. You can hear that getting there happen in real time near the very end of the record with the song Dendron. It is explicitly about surviving and figuring out what story is still left to write, and in it, the same musical idea from Housebroken comes back. Except by then, it's been slowed down, turned acoustic, softened into something gentle. The album takes its own sound of being stuck, the exact thing that broke a room full of strangers open that night, and hands it back to you transformed, built into something new with the same imperfect tools it started with. That's the record's whole approach in miniature. It doesn't have some clean, polished answer waiting for you. It just keeps trying, keeps building until it actually gets somewhere. That's the blueprint I walked out of that basement with, whether I understood it yet or not. Not stop feeling this, but actually feel every bit of it, the way the whole room clearly was, and then build something with it, imperfectly, instead of just standing in the wreckage, or worse, taking that wreckage out on the people around you. That matters more right now than it probably ever has. If you're an angry, lost young guy today looking for someone to tell you what to do with all of that frustration, the loudest voices online are more than happy to hand you an answer. Blame someone. Blame everyone. It's the system. It's women. It's whoever's easiest to point at. The answer is everywhere right now. It's cheap, it's destructive, and it will not actually get you anywhere. I'm genuinely thankful I found a room full of guys screaming along to a song about being stuck before I ever found the version of the internet that tells angry young men that their anger is somebody else's fault. This album offers the harder but better answer instead. Look inward. Take the anger and the grief and the stalled out feeling, and instead of aiming it at someone else, use it as fuel to build. Build something for yourself first. Prove to yourself, quietly, without needing anyone to see it, that you're capable of moving. Then build something for someone else. Be kind, even when the kindness doesn't feel like it's owed to you. Show other people, the way that a room full of strangers showed each other for 3 minutes in a basement bar, that it can be done, whatever it is. That's a real definition of manhood, and it's a much better one than most young men get handed by default. It's not stoicism, it's not dominance, it's not blaming your way out of your own stuckness. It's construction. Take the worst thing that happened to you, or the worst version of yourself that you've been stuck being, and build something out of it instead of tearing something else down. This band didn't write a grief record. They wrote a what now record. Nobody was coming to save any of us in that basement bar, and on some level every guy in that room already knew it. But we found out together that you don't need saving. You just need to start building with whatever imperfect tools that you've got in whatever imperfect moment you're standing in.